Good evening. I hope you're all doing well. Today we are learning Maseches Bava Kama, Daf Samech Gimel, and we're in Perek Meruba, so things are a little thicker than the rest of this. So we're going to get hopefully to the top of Samech Daled Amud Aleph by the time Marav starts. Stops would be better, but starts, and then we'll stop there and pick up as much as we can on Shabbos. This Sunday, I am traveling, but I hope to be back in time. Wednesday, I'm for sure out of town, and Thursday, I'm also out of town, so I'll try and post on those days. We're starting 10 lines or so from the bottom of Samech Beis and Beis at the two dots. And the Gemara says that the two dots, Shemidas Tashlume Kefel no Heges. We had said in our Mishnah that there are differences between the din of Tashlume Kefel and Tashlume Arba Bechamisha. We're not going to go into those details now, but what the Gemara wants to know is how do we know, in fact, that there is a din of Kefel? That if I were to steal your item and I get caught, how do I know that I have to pay you double, 2x of whatever the cost of your item is? Minohani Mili, we'll see two answers to this question. And similar to other Gemaras that we've learned, this is a Gemara about Klalu Pradu Klal, and about Ribui, and about Klalu Prat, and about Pradu Klal. So it's going to be easy peasy. Ready? Says the Gemara, here's how we know that you're obligated to pay kefil. The Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis have taught us in a brisa. The pasuk reads, Al kol dvar pesha. Kol dvar pesha is a broad language. That's klal. Al shor, al chamor, al se, al salma. On an animal, large animal, or a chamor, a donkey. On a se, a small animal, al salma, or on a piece of clothing. That's a prat. So now we have our klal and prat. And then the Torah circles back in another broad language, al kol aveda, another chazar uklal. Klalu pratu klal, yatadane lakena prat. So what are the common denominators of the prat? Oh, there are four things in the middle, in the prat. Says the Gemara. Mahaprat mufurish davar hamitaltel v'gufa mamon, something that is portable and it's worth money. Afkol davar hamitaltel v'gufa mamon. All of these things are subject to the punishment of kefel. Yatsu karkos she'ein metaltelin. However, if someone squats on your property as an act of theft, that doesn't work because that's not metaltalin. Doesn't check the box of the common denominators of the prat. Yatsu avadim hukshu lekarkos. We've seen earlier in Shas in numerous places that an eved is hukash to karka. So karka is not part of kefil. So to an eved. Yatsu shtaros and shtaros as well are not part. Why? Shafal pisha metaltalin ein gufan mamon. Even though they are portable, but they are not themselves money. It's representative of money. But we have this phrase in our world, it's not even worth the paper it's printed on. That's because, generally speaking, paper is not worth very much. Even the expensive paper isn't even worth that much. But laser paper is a penny a piece. Whatever it is very inexpensive. And also, as well, yatsa hektish, because re'eh huksi. We saw this also earlier in the Masechta, that if there's damages, or kefil, I should say, if there's a case of theft with hektish, you're putter, because the din of kefil requires a re'eh. And hektish is not a re'eh. Says the Gemara, that's a problem because I could find another set of common denominators for the prat. We said the common denominator was multifaceted and that it's metaltel and gufo mamon. Says the Gemara, I'll give you another option. Ima haprat mufurash davar shenevelasa metame b'mago v'masa. Just like the animals that can be found in the prat are animals where the nevela, meaning an animal that's shechted incorrectly, those animals are metame b'mago uv'masa. They will make you tame if you touch them or if you move them. So perhaps it would be true about other kinds of animals as well, just not birds. That's what the Gemara says is the Havamina, is a question, I should say, on our original Klal, the Pradu Klal. The Gemara says, wait a second, you've ignored something. You tried to find common denominators in the Prat, but are you trying to say that it's possible that the common denominator of everything in the Prat is that it's metame b'maga uvamasa? How can you say that? One of the things in there was the salmaksiv. Clothing was one of the examples of the Torah. Clothing is not metame b'maga uvamasa. So here are the four things: shor, chamor, se, salma. 3 out of the 4 you can talk about tuma. That's fine. But if the 4th example in the prat is clothing, that's not metame b'maga uvamasa. You have not found the common denominator. So the Gemara says, Amre, you're 100% right, but anan beba'ale chaim kamrina. We're actually going to parse out the things in the prat. That which is animal related requires the common denominators of metame b'mago b'masa. But the and salma is separate, so we can still make the common denominators. Says the Gemara, Ema beba'ale chaim. I can say about the animals, all animals. What can I say? Davar shenevei lasa metame b'mago b'masa in. Davar she'enevei lasa metame b'mago b'masa lo. and that we're able to parse out the prat into its own components, and therefore we're able to say that there is a common denominator among the animals. After all, why is this possible? Turning to the top of Daf, Samech Gimel Amud Aleph, this is a nuance within the world of klalu pradu klal, that when we have a klalu pradu klal, a general statement followed by a very specific statement followed by a general, all the details in the prat can be pulled out and viewed on their own. So we have a shiur. Okay, what's common to a shiur? Good. Next, chamor. Next, set. Individually, we can look at them and find rules. However, what would be excluded no matter what? The Gemara says, aval ofos lo. However, when it comes to birds, if you steal chickens, there would be no kefil. That's a diuk that we're making from this approach. Says the Gemara, in Cain, if that's what you're saying is true, why did the Torah bother writing 3 animals? Why did you bother writing shiur, chamor, and set? If what you're saying is that any one animal could have taught me about tumas mago masa, then says the Gemara, just write one. Keep it simple. Says the Gemara, you can't say that because hey nichtov rachmana. We needed all 3 of them because if you would have left any of them out, we would have misunderstood something. Which one did you want me to write? Because of rachmana shiur. If the Torah had only written about a shiur, havamina, I would have thought in regards to a shiur, karav legabe mizbeach in. She'ein karv legabe mizbeach lo. I might have thought that there's only kefil with an animal that's brought on the mizbeach. However, a chamor, which cannot be brought on the mizbeach, maybe I would have argued that that's not the case, that it can't then be chayiv and kefil if I were to steal a chamor. And the ikas of rachmana chamor, on the flip side, had I only spoken about chamor, havamina kadosh bebechora in, she'ein kadosh bebechora lo, that a chamor has a din of a bechor, and I might have thought it's possible that I would have thought that it's only a chamor, and therefore I couldn't have only taught that animal. Amre, says the Gemara, fine. In kain, nichtov rachmana shor v'chamor. Write the 2 that you need them for, because with shor you wouldn't have known chamor, and had you written chamor, you wouldn't have known shor. I got it. But selamali, it must be shmamina le'asuye ofos. It must be that once we have shor and chamor, which takes care of both categories of animals, that which is karev al gabe mizbeach and that which is not, why then did the Torah add another animal in the prat, which is the set? The Gemara says it must therefore be that birds are also part of the din of kefil. I just imagine practically if you steal a parrot from someone's house, it's a cute parrot. Did you see this thing going around? Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai. There was a little thing. Did you see this? Very cute. Okay. I'm wasting my time, I know, but there's this video going around. So I want to steal that parrot. If I steal the parrot, do I have chiyuv kefil? Yes or no? It depends. Depends which drasha you use. If it's the initial answer that we gave the klalu pradu klal lechora, that's la fuke ofos. The second one says la suye ofos. There are differences, but not in regards to tumas maga and masa. So therefore, even though there are differences, but there is a commonality between those 2. So therefore, you should only write 1. Oh, so why'd you put in set? If you put in shiur, elamai, it must be that birds are included. That was why how the Gemara ended that last case. Then the Gemara says, but wait, perhaps, and this is a great question, which actually throws off our whole approach, says the Gemara on Samech Gimel Amud Beis, about a quarter of the way down, first words on the line, maybe all we are including, if they were to be stolen, is ofos tahorim, birds that are tahor. Dumya deseh. What does this mean? That if you have an oaf tahor that is a nevela and you eat it, it's metame your clothes once it reaches the beis habliya. So maybe what we're saying is that only ofos tahorim are included in the din of kefel. Aval ofos tmeim delesbu tuma, but by an oaf tameh where there is no tuma, an ostrich dies, there's no tumas maga umasa. Delomatame begadim beis habliya lo. Perhaps over there, maybe there's no din of kefil. And this bothers the Gemara so much that we perfectly pivot away from our answer of klalu pradu klal. Let's review quickly in 10 seconds. We want to know, where do we know the din of kefil from? Gemara's answer number 1, klalu pradu klal. Gemara rejects that answer. We're moving on to answer number 2. That was good. Thank you very much. Ella, says the Gemara, it must be that there is a different answer as to our source, because this previous source distinguishes between an of tahor and an of tameh. The Gemara doesn't say why it doesn't like that answer. It's not a bad answer. The Gemara doesn't say why, but it doesn't like it. And therefore, Ella, it must be a third of the way down that it's the language of kol from the pasuk. Kol is ribuyahu, that teaches us that not only are animals included in regards to the din of kefel, but birds are as well. What is the word of kol that we're discussing? So let's go back to the pasuk that we started with. Al kol dvar pesha. that word kol of kol dvar pesha is a ribuya that teaches us that all animals, including birds, are subject to the din of kefel if they're stolen. Asks the Gemara, and we saw this earlier in the Masechta. Is it true that every time the word kol is utilized, it's a broad, inclusive language? I'll show you an example where kol is not a broad language. Says the Gemara, v'hagabe meiser, in regards to the halacha of meiser sheni, what do we see? Dichsiv, over there it says kol, v'kadarshinan le b'klalu prat. There, even though it says the word kol, we didn't learn that pasuk biribuya. We learned that pasuk b'klalu prat. So which one? If you're saying kol is always ribuya, then kol is always ribuya. Why over here was kol a klalu prat? It should have been a ribuya. How do we know this to be true? That by meiser there's a din of klalu prat. Ditani or Ditanya, the Brisa says as follows: V'nasata kesef b'chol asher ta'venafshecha. That's a klal. The pasuk says that with meiser sheni you can get whatever you want. Then it drills down. Babakaru vatzonu vayaynu vashechar. Large animals, small animals, wine and beer, prat. You can use it in everything as long as it's one of these four things, which is backwards language, right? And then, and what do we see by the world of kol? Because it says b'chol asher taven nafshecha. What do we see? Klalu pradu klal yatadan elakena prat. That's a stira. You just said 2 lines ago that the reason that we know that our case has kefel even by birds is because it's not klalu pradu klal by the world of kefel, but rather it is a din of ribui because it has the word kol. It says the Gemara, that's not true. We have the word kol by meiser, and it's not being used as a ribui. What is the tzara shava shebehen? The Gemara says halfway down, ma'aprat mufurash primi privi gedulei karka, afkol primi privi gedulei karka. What makes something eligible to be used for meiser sheni? We look at the prat and find common denominators. Whatever is either primi pri, it's drawn out from one other thing. Grapes are drawn from wine. Beer is drawn from dates. We're drawing things out one from another. So avkol primi pri b'gidule karka. What's excluded? Water, salt, and mushrooms. These are the kinds of foods that would be excluded from meiser sheni. You may not buy shiitake mushrooms, not allowed. That's not something the meiser sheni can be spent on. How do we know? Because it's not part of the prat. It has to be shavet to the prat. So that's a kasha in the Gemara. You want to say that we know that kefel is chayiv everywhere, including ophos, because of the word kol, and kol is a ribui. You're saying kol is always a ribui? It's not true by meiser sheni. In this case, kol wasn't a ribui. It was a klalu pradu klal. So Amrei says the Gemara, no, that's different. Bakol klala. The word by meiser sheni was bakol, not kol. The pasuk says bichol asher taven avshecha. Bichol with a base, klalu pradu klal. However, kol ribuyahu. Great answer. Great answer. That means that when we see the word kol by itself, it's a language of ribui. When we see the word bichol with a base, that's not ribui, that's klalu pradu klal language. The Gemara suggests another possible answer. Kol is klalahu. Mihu kol dehacha ribuyahu. Kol in general is used for klalu pradu klal. However, in our case of kefel, it's being used as a ribui. Why? Michti. The Gemara says, let's analyze. Siv me'ikara klalu pradu klal. We have another pasuk that is already in the realms of kefel and already speaks about klalu pradu klal. What is that pasuk? Dichsiv ki tein ishal re'ehu klal. If I give something to my friend, that's a large term, broad. Kesef o kelim, I give him silver or utensils, that's a prat. And lishmor hadar klal. So there we see that if I give something to someone and it ends up getting stolen from him, so then we have a din of kefel with the world of klalu pradu klal. V'isal kadaita hai al kol dvar pesha nami leklalu prad hu de'asa. That was the other pasuk. But if our pasuk has the word kol, if you think that's about that, if the structure of that pasuk is not a ribui but klalu pradu klal, nichtov rachman alahani prate gabe hayach klalu prad. Why would we have 2 different halachic tools to learn out the same din? Why would we have the pasuk of what's the previous pasuk that we said, the ki teni shal re'ehu, that's klalu pradu klal, and our other pasuk of al kol dvar pesha being klalu pradu klal? One has to be klalu pradu klal, the other has to be a ribui. So therefore, therefore the Gemara says al kol prat al kol dvar pesha lamali shma mina ribuyahu. So the Gemara here paints this relatively complex picture, but the short version of the Gemara is we've already summarized the first possible answer. How do we know kefel klalu pradu klal? We say no, it's from the word kol, and kol is a ribui, and therefore we know that there's a din of kefel, that if I steal something from you and I get caught, I have to pay you. If it's $100, I have to pay you $200. That's the din learned out from the word kol as a ribui. No. The reason we know that kol is a ribui in this case is because it can't be a klalu pradu klal, because by kefil we already have a drasha like that. You apparently, I didn't know this until about, I don't know, today. You can't use klalu pradu klal twice in the same halachic space. So we already have a pasuk of ki yitain. Is that what the pasuk says? The pasuk of ki yitain by klalu pradu klal in the realms of kefil. Therefore, when we have another pasuk of al kol bar pesha, it can't be klalu pradu klal. It's not possible. So therefore, there has to be kol ribuya. So says the Gemara 6 lines from the bottom. Hashta de amris kol ribuya. Now that we know that in general kol is ribui, I should say, now that we know that in our case of al kol dvar pesha, that kol is a ribui, kol hani prati lamali. Why then does the pasuk have to say all the 4 languages of shor, chamor, set, and salma? Why? Why? Kol is a ribui. Kol means everything. I don't need it to be kol with pratim. It's kol. Kol is all inclusive. Says the Gemara, we needed all 4 of them. Chad le'me'ute karka, 1 excludes the possibility of paying kefil on karka. The chad le'me'ute avadim, 1 excludes paying kefil if you steal an eved because he's like karka. The chad le'me'ute shtaros, 1 of them precludes collecting kefil if you steal a document because it's not worth the paper that it's written on. And salma, what about the word clothing? That's the me'ute davar she'enu mesuyam. What does this mean? Something that's enu mesuyam. Rashi says at the bottom on the last page, the me'ute davar she'enu mesuyam she'en lebailim siman bo shepater mi kefil. This pasuk is speaking about a lost item. The Gemara says that if there are no bailim on it at all, there's no simanim on it, so we don't know whose it is. You're not chayav kefil on that either. So the Gemara now is clear. What about al kol aveda? What do we do with that pasuk? Says the Gemara. I should say, what do we do with that part of the pasuk? So the Gemara says, "Lichad Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rav Yochanan, hatoin tainas ganev ba'aveda." The claim of toin tainas ganev is when I'm a shomer and I say I didn't steal it, and it turns out I was lying. If I say, let's say I'm the shomer, and I say I didn't steal it, Gerald stole it, and then they show the camera that really fills the thief. So what happens in that case? By the case of toin tainas ganev, the halacha is mishalim tashlumei kefel. I have to pay $200, 2x. Shene'emar al kol aveda asher ye'amer. And now, like a neat little bow, we have our perfect answer. Typically, the word kol is part of klalu pradu klal. In our case of kefel, the word kol is ribui. Why do we have the extra language of shor, chamor, set, and salma? Each of them to exclude a particular case from the world of kefel. Very good. Very good. All right, similar topic, but we're not answering the question anymore about what's our marimakum. Now we know our marimakum that the word kol is ribui. Afilu ofos are going to be included in the isser of kefel, and you have to pay kefel. There are some things that are excluded, that's for sure, but it's not a bird. A bird is part of the isser. Tanan Hassam, we have a Mishnah elsewhere. We'll soon see this in the Masechta in about 40 blot or so. The Gemara says, Heichan piktoni. If I say to you, hey, where's the item that I entrusted to you? Amar lo avan. And you say to me, Phil, I'm sorry, I lost it. I say to you, mashbiacha ani. Make a shvua that you actually lost it. The Amar, you respond, amen. No problem. I'll make a shvua, I am innocent. And then you, who's not so bright, you made a shvua, and then someone's like, yo, I got all this on camera. We have Eidim who saw you eating the food. V'shalei mesak keren. He's obligated to pay that which he stole. Hoda al pi atzmo. What if you admitted, you know what, I had a big Yetzer Hara, there was a famine, I was out of food, Hamas stole the whatever, I'm eating your food and you ate my food. Hoda al pi atzmo, m'shalem keren v'chomesh v'asha. Then you have to pay principal, you have to add 20%, and you have to bring a korban asha. That's part 1 of this next piece of the Gemara.
So saying amen is enough to make a shvua. You don't actually have to.
No, I think they have to say. I think like the Chachamim would say, "Do you make a shvua about X?" And they say, "I think that's how it works." I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. But by itself, I don't think so. I don't think so. Next case, 5-6 lines down. Heichan piktoni. Again, you and I have another conversation. Excuse me, I entrusted something with you. Where is it? Amar lo nigna. This time I don't say that it's This time I don't say that it's lost. I say it was stolen. Mashbiach ani, make a promise to me. I say to you, and you respond. V'amar amen. I make a shvua. And then witnesses, the Nest camera, whatever, it sees that you, in fact, were the thief yourself. What's the din? Says the Gemara, Mishalim Tashlume Kefel. So we see Kefel over here by the world of Nignav, but no Kefel by the world of Aveda. If you claim that it's been lost, even if you're lying, you don't pay Kefel. We're going to discuss this for the next little while. Hodeme Atzmo, if you admit, excuse me, that you stole my food, Mishalim Karen V'chomesh V'asham. End of the Brisa. End of the Mishnah. Katani Miha, but we did, however, learn in this Brisa the following Yisod. We learned that Toin Tainas Ganev de Mishalim Tashlume Kefel, that if I am your shomer and I lie and I say that I didn't steal it, somebody else did. Turns out I was the guilty party, I pay Kefel. Aval, in contrast, second of the wide lines, Betoin Tainas Avad Lo Mishalim Tashlume Kefel, that if I claim it was stolen, I claim it was lost, and then it turns out that it really wasn't lost, so then I don't pay Tashlume Kefel. The Afilu Toin Tainas Ganav, and even in regards to the case where I claimed that it was stolen, and really it wasn't stolen, but I was the thief, says the Gemara, B'shvua hu d'mishalim tashlume kefel, only with the shvua would you make a kefel. Aval shelo b'shvua einu mishalim tashlume kefel. That means in a case like this of hoda al pi atzmo, you would only have kefel if you also made a shvua. We're going to discuss this in a little bit because shvua that you didn't steal it. You're the shomer. You have to say it as a shomer, not as a thief. You have to. The toin tainas ganav is a very specific case. That's where I am watching your item for you. I'm a shomer. You say, Phil, where's the item? I say, it was stolen. Meanwhile, I put it in a safe somewhere, and I'm a ganav. And then they find out I'm chayiv kefel with a shvua. But that's not a regular case of kefel. A regular case of kefel is where a regular ganav steals, not where a shomer lies. So where somebody is a shomer and lies, he's chayiv kefel. And the Gemara wants to know where we know that from. A quarter of the way down on Samach Gimel Amud Beis. How do we know this to be true? Please hold on tight. There's a lot of small little things that happen in the Gemara here. There's two psukim that sound alike, and we have to make sure that we know that they're different. Let's drill in and make sure we understand this Gemara klor, because we have to figure out the Mari Makom as to how we know that if someone is towing Tainas Ganav, if I as a shomer say that something was stolen from me and I was lying, I'm chayiv kefil minani mili with a shvua. How do I know? The Tanu Rabbanan. Im yimatzeh haganav. If the ganav is found, and the Brisa writes, B'toin tainas ganav akasu medaber. The Gemara learns the pasuk of Im yimatzeh haganav to say that's the case where the shomer is lying, not regular geneva, but where the shomer lies. Asks the Brisa, Ata omer b'toin tainas ganav beganav atzmo. How do you know what it's talking about? Maybe the Gemara is not talking about a weird case of a shomer who lies. Maybe it's just talking about a regular ganav. Why are you saying it's talking about a case of a shomer who lied? That's an uncommon case, says the Gemara, because of the next part of the pasuk. Kishehu omer im lo yimatzeh haganav. That's for sure dealing with betoin tainas ganav akasim medaber. Therefore, both parts of the pasuk are dealing with betoin tainas ganav. So Brisa number 1 teaches us that toin tainas ganav is chayiv kefel. Tanya idach, we have another Brisa. Im yimatzeh haganav. This Brisa argues with the previous Brisa on one nakuda. Beganav atzma akasim medaber, that we're talking about a regular ganav who stole. Here the Gemara questions this as well. Ata omer beganav atzma o enu el betoin tainas ganav. You want to say that the pasuk of im lo yimatzeh haganav is talking about a regular thief. Perhaps it's talking about toin tainas ganav. It's talking about that unique case of a shomer who stole and was caught lying. Says the Gemara in this second brisa, who omer im lo yimatzeh haganav hare toin tainas ganav ha'amor. That second half of the pasuk of im lo yimatzeh haganav is talking about the case where taka a shomer lied. So here's what we have. We have in regards to the first pasuk of im lo yimatzeh haganav machlokes tanaim. Is the pasuk of im lo yimatzeh haganav dealing with toin tainas ganav or dealing with a regular ganav? But everyone agrees that the second part of the pasuk of im lo yimatzeh haganav is talking about toin tainas ganav. Says the Gemara, Hamani Makayim im yimatzeh haganav ganav atzma akasim medaber. Now, the kule alma mihas, in both of the brisas we see one commonality. What's the common denominator of these two brisas that we just learned? That the second part of the pasuk of im lo yimatzeh haganav betoin tainas ganav ksiv. My mashma, where do we get this idea from? Amar Rava, im lo yimatzeh haganav kemasha amar. If we don't find on the ganav like he said, meaning he must have lied. Who's the shomer? The shomer's a thief. He lied. It's not Kimash Omar. It's not like he said. Elashu Atzmo Ganvo Yishalem Shnai. Okay. Uminalan Dibishvua. How do we know that money only changes hands if there's shvua? In the case of Toin Tainas Ganav, says the Gemara, the Tanya. V'nikra balabais Elo Elohim. This Elohim is not God's name. It's a reference to Bezdin. Lishvua. That teaches us, that pasuk teaches us that there's a shvua. Ata Omer, you say that this pasuk teaches us that in the case of Toin Tainas Ganev, that it's l'shvua, o enu elo l'din. Maybe the pasuk of V'nikra balabais El Elohim means that you just have to show up at Bezdin. It's a summons. You have to show up. Says the Gemara, no. Nemar shlichus yad lamata v'nemar shlichus yad lamala. We have two sugyas that speak about shlichus yad, which is putting your hand on someone else's items. In other words, that you are a thief. So we already have that. And what's the common denominator of those two places? Okay. Here's what we just did. On the first Amud, we found out our Mari Makomos for knowing that there's a basic din of kefel. On this page, we found out that there's a din of kefel in a case of Toin Tainas Ganab, and that it only applies when there is a shvua. And now, let's just highlight one thing before we continue, because it's nuanced, and that is that we just had a machlokes and brysas, two parts of the pasuk. One pasuk says im yimatzeh haganab, one part of the pasuk says im lo yimatzeh haganab. According to one shita, the first part of the pasuk is talking about a regular ganab. According to one shita, the first part of the pasuk is talking about Toin Tainas Ganab. With that as a background, we're a little bit more than halfway down. First word on the line is bishlama. Bishlama laman to amar chad beganav v'chad b'toin tainas ganav. I understand the second brisa that the first part of the pasuk is talking about a regular ganav, and the second part of the pasuk is talking about toin tainas ganav. Hainu dechsivi trei kroi. That's why we need two psukim. Imi matzeh haganav and im lo yimatzeh haganav. I understand. Elo laman to amar tarvaya b'toin tainas ganav. According to the one who holds, namely the first brisa, that both psukim are talking about Toin Tainas Ganev, well, if they're both talking about the same thing, Trei Kroi Lamali. I don't need the same pasuk to teach me two things. I mean, two things, the same thing.
Right.
Two psukim, the same thing. I don't need two psukim to teach me the same thing. Says the Gemara, Amar, he responded, I know. One is to teach me about Toin Tainas Ganev, and the other, Amre, Chad L'Me'ute Tainas Avad, is to make sure that we know the Tainus Avad, if I claim as a shomer that something was stolen, was lost, and then it turns out that I kept it, there's no din of kefel. Next question. Uleman de Amar Chad Beganav v'Chad Betoin Tainus Ganav.
Isn't it a Geneva in any event?
Yes, but the Taina is different. It's not Nigna. Kefel is a din in Geneva. So if you say that I, as the shomer, claim you are a Ganav, but as a shomer, when you claim theft, it brings about a kefel din. And by Aveda, if you say Toin Tainus Avad, I as the shomer say it's lost, and then you get caught red-handed, you have to pay Karen. You have to pay back the item, possibly with Chomesh, as we saw at the top of the page. And the Gemara says 2/3 of the way down. According to the first, which one was it? According to one of the brysas, where it's as the second brisa. According to the second brisa, where one pasuk was talking about a ganav and one pasuk was talking about Toin Tainas Ganav. So there, Delomi Yater, there's no extra psukim. Lemeute Tainas Avad Minole. Well, according to him, he can't use one of the psukim for Toin Tainas Avad because one pasuk is being used for regular Geneva and another pasuk is being used for Toin Tainas Ganav. So where does he learn Toin Tainas Avad? Doesn't get kefel from. The Gemara says, Mi Ganev Ha Ganev. There's an extra hey in the pasuk. That is where he learns it from. Okay, let's flip back to the other shita. Uleman de Amar Tarvai b'Toin Tainas Ganav demiet le Toin Tainas Avad gabe Haganav my Darishbe. According to the shita that says that both im yimatzeh Haganav and im lo yimatzeh Haganav are talking about Toin Tainas Ganav, and one of those two psukim is used to teach me Avad. What does he do with the hey of Haganav? Because the other Tana said that Haganav taught me something. So what does this Tana say? Says the Gemara, Amar Lach mi boile lechadar b'chia bar Abba Amar Rav Yochanan. We need the letter Hey to teach us a din that we learn from Rav Chia bar Abba in the name of Rav Yochanan. 12 lines or so from the bottom to Amar Rav Chia bar Abba Amar Rav Yochanan. Atoin tainas ganav b'pikadon. A person who claims that there was a theft when he was watching something b'pikadon. I'm not a regular shomer. I'm watching a pikadon. Mishalim tashlume kefel. That teaches us that there's a din of kefel. However, tavachu machar mishalim tashlume arba v'chamisha. So that din needed to be learned out. We learned it out from the letter Hey. Another question. Ulamando Amar Chad beganav v'chan betoin tainas ganav in the second brisa where the pasuk of im yimatzeh ganav speaks about a regular ganav, and im lo yimatzeh ganav speaks about a case of toin tainas ovad. The high ganib ha ganib afke lemuute tainas ovad, and he holds that the letter hey excludes the case of tainas ovad from the world of kefel. The Reb Chia bar Abba minole. How does he learn the din of Reb Chia bar Abba that we saw 2-3 lines ago? Amar lach, you can't ask on that. Hekeshahu. That was learned out from a hekesh, and ve'ein mashivin al hekesha. Very interesting line. You're not allowed to ask any questions on a hekesh. That's fascinating. We've seen hekeshim where we say, wait 1 second, ima X because of Y, or well, this is tochiach. We've seen this all the time. This requires rishonim. Why is it that over here we don't allow for any questions? Next, the Gemara asks another question on these two Tanoim. I understand the second brisa where part of the pasuk is talking about a ganav, and part of the pasuk is talking about toin tanis ganav. According to the one that says that both psukim, that im yimatzeh haganav and im lo yimatzeh haganav is talking about toin tanis ganav, then ganav atzmo minale. How do we know that a regular ganav gets kefel? How do we know? Because after all, he learns both part of the psukim talking about toin tanis ganav. So now we don't have a mari makom to teach us about a regular geneva, because the psukim have all been given over to toin tanis ganav. To this, the Gemara responds, "V'chi tema," 4 lines from the bottom. We'll make it. V'chi tema le se bekal v'chomer mitoin tanis ganav. Maybe we can have a kal v'chomer that can't be, because diolavu minadin lios kenido. We need there to be commonality between that which you're learning from to that which you're learning to. Malahalan b'shvua, afkan b'shvua. Because in the case of toin tainas ganav, when did we say that if a shomer lies, he has to pay kefil only with a shvua? But a regular case of kefil, the ganav doesn't have to make a shvua. You can't have a case that you're learning from that's chamor that doesn't come over the bridge in the kal v'chomer. That's what the line means. The dial lavo minadin lios kinidon. Says the Gemara, you're right. And now we're going to find our mare makom for real kefel with a regular ganav. Nafkalemi de Tana de Bechizkiah. I'm going to tell you openly, this piece of Gemara is difficult. We're not even going to get to all of it today, but this is a harder piece of Gemara, but we are going to work through it. Says the Gemara, we learn it from Tana de Bechizkiah. The Tana de Bechizkiah. Yomar, we have a pasuk that says, Shor ugneva ve'akol bichlal. Shor is a prat. Gneva is a klal. We have a prat uklal. And with a prat uklal, there we are very broad. Ve'akol bichlal. There everything is included. Therefore, even a regular ganav is chayav kefel, even without a shvua. Says the Gemara, ilu kach, if this is true, hayisi omer maha prat mufurash karav legabe mizbeach, af kol karav legabe mizbeach. I might have thought that looking at this, because it only said the word shor, maybe it only means things that are like a shor that are karav legabe mizbeach. Ma yesh lecha lahavi. Why then does the Torah bring the word set? Turning to the top of Samach Daled Amud Aleph, the word set seems extraneous. If you're going to use the word shor and we have a pradu klal, I don't need anything else. Says the Gemara, Kshe Omer se hare se amor. Now you're adding in, that should already be included in shor, because a shor is karav legabe mizbeach, so is a set. Says the Gemara, Hamani Mekayim Geneva. Well, what do we do then with the klal of the word Geneva? Says the Gemara, L'rabos kol davar. And therefore, even according to the possibility of prat uklal, we still would know that you are chayav to pay kefil. Says the Gemara, fine, I understand. Yomar shor se ugneva. V'akol b'chlal. Everything else should be included. Why then, the Rishonim explain what we're talking about, why then did we include the word chamor? Says the Gemara, because ilu kach, we're on Samach Daled Amud Aleph, 3 lines down. If that were to be true without the word chamor, hayisi omer mahaprat mufurish davar hakadosh bevechora. I've called davar hakadosh bevechora. I might have thought only things that have a din of bechora. The chamor has a unique din of bechora. Peter chamor tifdeh beseh. Mayesh lecha lahavi chamor. Kshe omer chamor harei chamor amor. We see there that the word chamor is absolutely necessary. And then the Gemara says that it should therefore be included in shor and set. Amani Mekayim Geneva. Oh, so what do we do with the word Geneva according to this question? The Rabos Kol Davar. This teaches us to include everything even a regular case of Geneva. Yomar Shor v'Chamor Seu Geneva, the Gemara asks, okay, let's do all of that. Let's include in the pasuk Shor Chamor Se and Geneva, V'Akol Bichlal, and I won't need the word Chayim. Why does the pasuk say Baalei Chayim? It says Chayim are included. Answers the Gemara, Ilukach, if that were to have been true, that we didn't have the word Chayim, Hayisi Omer Mahaprat Mefurash Baalei Chayim, Afkol Baalei Chayim. I might have thought that just like the pratim are dealing with Baalei Chayim, all Baalei Chayim are included. So therefore, the Gemara says, "Hamani Makayim Geneva." What then do I include from Geneva? And with this, the Gemara responds, "L'Rabos Kol Davar." Again, a complicated answer. I'll just summarize in the following way, and then we're going to call it quits for the day. We're trying to find a Mari Makom for regular Geneva, and we kind of sort of did when we presented an answer on the bottom of where did we get it from. We thought maybe it was the Kal V'chomer. We said it really comes from Chizkiah, from the pasuk that speaks about Shor V'seh, which kind of Shor and Geneva, which kind of looks like a klal, a pradu klal. We analyzed that, and when we found out why all the pratim were there, we then said it's true, but the word Geneva is a klal and broad enough even to include a regular case of a ganav that he'd be chayav kefil even without a shvuah. We'll stop right here at Amar Mar. Mir Tashem on Shabbos we'll pick up at 3:05, different time than the last many weeks. We're going to start to move to an hour before the later mincha. Wishing you all a beautiful night.